Hi and welcome everyone to Season 5 of the Ruin Hammer Live Show, where we talk all things One New Zealand Warriors. Thank you all for joining us. Tonight we're going to discuss the Warriors Season 2024. Give our thoughts and our opinions on the season. We'll also take a quick look at Week 1 of the NRL Final Series, Round 8 of the NRLW, and then look at Round 9, the final round of the NRLW, and the second week of the final series. Joining me tonight, as always, is my good mate and co-host Warrior Roo. Rob, how are you, mate? It was great to catch up with you last weekend when I was on the Goldie.
Yeah, going well, mate. Thanks for the intro. Thanks to everyone watching through Facebook and YouTube. Good to have you with us. Yeah, it was awesome to catch up on the weekend. As for those of you who don't know, we are in completely different states, so we don't actually get to see each other in person too often outside of footy season. So yeah, no, that was really good to catch up with you and some of the family and celebrate a few different moments or life milestones approaching.
Yes.
Yeah. But other than that, yeah, it's been good. Been busy. Like the competition season is kind of wrapped up, so I got a little bit more time on my hands for the dance. But it's been good. Watching a bit of footy and watching it stress free. I mean, that's probably the silver lining of not having the Warriors in the finals is you can just sit back and just watch the games without having to worry.
Yep. Yeah, true.
Yourself, how have you been?
Yeah, good, mate. Just great weekend up the Gold Coast. Got to catch up with, obviously, yourself and Cleo. Got to see my youngest son, my oldest daughter, my granddaughter, and just get away. Danny and I try to get up there at least every 3 months to hit those, because it's very hard. As you said, we live in different states, but I've also got two kids that live interstate as well, who I don't get to see that often. So we try to get up to Queensland every 3 months, especially now that we've got the granddaughter. It's very hard having that grandfather-granddaughter relationship over FaceTime.
And the changes are so big and so drastic at this time as well.
Absolutely. So yeah, we were up there just after she was born. Obviously, 3 months, 6 months. She's 9 months old now, and we'll be up there again in December for her first birthday. So, but yeah, it's always good to get up to Queensland. We stay at Southport on the Merritt there. It's like our little home away from home. We call it our Queensland home. Love staying there. But yeah, mate,
good spot. Good spot.
It is. We had some great weather up there. Got back to Sydney. It was a little bit cold this week. I'm back in the long pants and jumper in Sydney this week at work. But yeah, mate, it was all good. Good weekend. Now it's just back into usual work mode, mate. So head down, bum up for the next couple of months until I can get back up there again.
Yeah. For sure. Jacko and Brad in the chat.
As I said in the intro, mate, tonight we're gonna have a bit of a chat about the Warriors season. Nothing too formal, just a bit of an informal chat. Before we do get into that discussion, I invite everyone, if you haven't already done so, to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and our Facebook page, and give us a follow on Instagram. The direct links are in our link tree. And I'd also like to acknowledge and thank our wonderful supporters and subscribers on all social media platforms, in particular our generous Patreon subscribers, whose donations and support enables us to continue to bring everyone the content that they enjoy so much. And just a reminder to everyone that has tuned in tonight, the reason we do the show live is to get the involvement of all you guys watching. So please, as we move through our discussion points tonight, join the conversation, leave your comments, but please keep them respectful and refrain from making them personal or derogatory in nature, as we do have current ex-players and their families that watch this webcast. Mate, let's get into this review, shall we?
Has to be done.
Season 2024. Keep forgetting how old I am, Hammer. Thanks, Brad. Little bit older tomorrow too, mate. Season 2024. Mate, overall, 9 wins, 14 losses, one draw. Those 3 crucial buys. 25 competition points, 13th position on the ladder. what was your overall take on the season, mate? Just quickly.
Yeah, like before the season, expectations were sky high following on from 2023.
Yep.
But hearing those stats again, completely underwhelming season. In fact, I would go so far to say this is maybe one of the hardest Warriors seasons to watch, outside of perhaps 2004 and 2009 and that kind of thing. Like, there was just something not quite right from the very first game. When we were watching it there at the Parkwood Tavern with Big Tooks,
yep,
and we're like, there's just something not quite right about this performance when we lost to the Sharks. And yeah, whatever happened that night just continued on for the majority of the rest of the season. Yeah, only 9 wins is really not good enough. We were never, like, in terms of the table, we were close to, I suppose at times if we kept winning, we would have been close to finals. We at no stage played like a finals team. It was just really tough to watch. And we probably got what we deserved, I think, in terms of what we dished out on the field. There were a number of factors, a number of elements in the equation, but I'm sure we're going to get into that. But yeah, that's just my overall summation. It's just extremely disappointing.
Yeah. As you said, I think after the successes of 2023, Final Four finish, getting all the way through to that prelim grand final qualifier, with that loss to the Broncos last year. I think we all had high hopes that 2024 was going to be, a continuation of that. We would have built on our 2023 result and had a lot of people tipped us again to be top 4 in
just a
this
rinse
season.
And repeat. Yeah.
But yeah, as you said, it didn't quite happen, and there were some warning signs early, and the theme of our season seemed to be get out to a good start, dominate for the first 20 minutes, but fail to turn the amount of possession we had into points that equated to that possession, and then just not being able to hang on to leads. And we did it against the Sharks in round 1. We led 12-0 early, and we thought, how good is this? And then the Sharks came back and won that game 16-12. And then the following week, it was kind of the reverse. Melbourne jumped down to the lead. We came back, and we had that slim lead going into the final minutes of that game, and that miracle try that they kept talking about.
We'll never hear the end of.
No, we won't. But we kind of had I think back then, a lot of the rugby league experts, the locker room, Matty Johnson, that was saying, are the Warriors are they they're still talking about us being a top 4 side?
The 2 best losses ever. Like they were saying, going on about they were quality losses, and I'm like, no, they were still losses. It was really weird, wasn't it? That kind of thing that was coming out, and then
it was, and then things kind of fell into place because the next 3 games we played. We had the win against the Raiders in New Zealand, 18-10. We had the win against Newcastle, 20-12, and then we had that win against the Rabbits, 34-4, which was a really dominant win. And we thought, here we go, this is it. But little did we know that win against the Rabbits probably told us more about the Rabbits than it did about the Warriors. Because they went on, they were on a horror run of losses. The Rabbits, they had that great roster that weren't producing any wins. But five games into the season, we had 3 wins, and it's kind of what we all predicted. Oh, if we have 3 wins out of our opening 5 games,
we'll be happy with that.
Yeah. So we kind of went into the game against Manly with this little bit upbeat, thinking, oh yeah, okay, well our season's on track. We had that 22-all draw against Manly, a rarity in this day and age with Golden Point, and especially against Manly with Cherry Evans's record for kicking field goals against the Warriors.
Against us especially, yeah.
Yeah, and we're kind of sitting. We're in a period of the season where we thought, okay, well, this isn't too bad. And then came that horror game against the Dragons. One of the games I went to, sat there at Wynn Stadium, expecting a great showing from the Warriors, and the Dragons came out and blew us off the park.
Yeah.
And that was where the worrying signs hit. We came up against a Titans side that hadn't won a game, and they jumped out to a 27-4 lead or something before we came back. And even in that game, and I remember talking to you about this after that game, where
the back end of that game was horrific.
It was, wasn't it? We got back 27-24. And
we had all the ball. We had all the possession. Yes. We were dead set running downhill. And then when we got into the 20-meter zone, it was like our Bermuda Triangle or our Twilight Zone all year.
Yep.
We just suddenly just started playing panic footy, trying to do crash plays all the time. Because I think AFB had scored a couple of tries where he barged over, and then we just kept trying to do that. And we just that was the hardest thing to watch, us trying to score against the Titans. And we had about 20 minutes, I swear, where they barely had the ball. And they must have been out in their feet. We just couldn't get the job done. That was tough. So you mentioned those wins. I mean, the win against the Raiders and Knights, they were really rusty, scrappy wins, like a team that was really trying to find their feet and really needed to blow out a few cobwebs. Yeah, and like you said, we then thought that the game against the Rabbitohs was one where we okay, this is us. They were talking up Wade Egan. They were doing all this stuff on Wade Egan. I remember on the locker room and everything, saying, look, he's the key to unlocking the Warriors. And at that point in time, he was playing great footy. Draw against Manly, which we like. I remember that game against Manly. We were comprehensively outplayed for pretty much the whole game. And we just kept it close enough that we were within striking distance, and we got like a late try, and then we got that fortunate penalty that that kind of got us not home, but got us in the golden point. We couldn't get it done, but that Dragons game completely had us crashing back down to earth. The Titans that set us on a terrible run of losses after that as well. Couple more. That was losses.
The Anzac game. That's the Anzac game that Jacko's talking about in the comments too. You know, it was the first Anzac game that we'd had at home since, and you'll be able to help me with this one. 2015
against the Titans of 2015, big occasion. We had everything to play for. It was a huge day. They had that big display beforehand. They did a great job of the ceremony and everything, and then we burst out of the blocks to a 12-0 lead, and then not inexplicably, because it had happened many times, but Titans just got straight back into the game. They killed us with their speed for about 60 minutes, but we still should have won that. There's no excuses for not winning that.
100%. Then we went into a 3-game or a series of 3 games where we played away from home. A loss to the Knights, 14-8 at McDonald Jones Stadium, and then a comprehensive 38-18 point loss to the Roosters. Another game I was at Allianz Stadium on Mother's Day.
That's right. I was about to say that wasn't Father's Day, it was Mother's Day. I knew there was some sort of occasion for that game. Yeah.
Yep. And then, Magic Round, which is always a great event. We haven't had much success at Magic Round in the past. I think we won our first Magic Round.
We won the first game against the Dragons in 2019. Ever since then, we've struggled, and because they keep bloody putting us against Penrith. But Magic Round was one of the highlights of the season. Obviously. I was lucky enough to be there. Fantastic event at the Lord Alfred, mate. It was, despite the way that the team was playing, it was another packed out Lord Alfred hotel. I remember talking to Rachel Tukey. She'd been there at the captain's run before the game, and she goes, "Oh, there's something going on with the boys. There's a bit of a buzz there." And I was like, having come from watching them play the last 3 weeks, I was like, it's going to have to be something pretty special. And lo and behold, it was. It was one of the greatest wins in Warriors history. A depleted lineup. We had Chance at 5'8". We had Tane at fullback, who had arguably one of the greatest ever individual games in Warriors history as well. He single-handedly got us home over the Panthers 22-20. And regardless of how you know, how disappointing the season has been, there's been probably 3 wins, and we'll get to the other 2 after this, that, you know, really will stay with me forever and probably be close to being in some of the greatest Warriors wins of all time. And yeah, that 22-20 victory over the Panthers and Magic round, with a completely depleted, absolutely depleted side, was you know, maybe a bit of a false dawn.
Yeah, and that's when we started getting a bit of a sense of the fact that I might be a curse, because I've only missed 2 Magic rounds, and it's the 2 ones that the Warriors have won. I'd been to the Roosters game and the Dragons game, and was starting to get worried. And the reason we're getting worried was Rob and I were heading off to New Zealand for our first ever live game at Mount Smart Stadium together. It was my first ever visit to Mount Smart. We came up against the Dolphins side, and that game, that whole game day experience, is probably the highlight of the season for me. 24-20 win on the field, a real gutsy win because of the amount of injuries that we had, and that's one thing that we'll talk about
dropping like flies.
Later. Yep.
Players are dropping like flies during the day. Players, like the 3 players pulled out on game day.
That's correct. But that was a great day. We met up with Brad Inger at Lily World there. And then we experienced Lily World. We had the Warriors really rolled out the red carpet for us. Gave us a nice behind the scenes look at the organisation. I got to watch the game in great seats, great viewing at the stadium there, and then into the dressing rooms after the game, which was a real highlight. But on the field, that game was that's where we thought that maybe that was the turnaround of the season. A win against Penrith at Magic round, that come from behind win against the Dolphins. Heading into the bye, we thought this is where things could get different for us. And then following that game, we come out after the bye and we put on a clinic against the Cowboys at up there in North Queensland, 42-12. And for me, mate, I thought our season had turned around. What were your thoughts at that point of the season?
It seemed that way. All our talk leading up to that bye was we get this win over the Dolphins, which on the day was looking completely unlikely. There was all sorts of rumours going around that, like there was even more players pulling out. Tane missed the game because of the birth of his child. Franz had a bug, all this sort of thing, and we pulled, as you mentioned, we pulled off a really gutsy win that night, and we had the bye, and we're like, if we can come out of the bye and come up against the Cowboys up in Townsville, it's a tough road trip, but it is straight after Origin. And they had like about 7 players, I think, backing up from Origin, and geez, they played like it because we just dominated them that night. We went up there and we never looked like losing that game, and we put on 42 points, the most points we put on all season. You're thinking, hey, we're back here, we're cooking with gas, and we probably never come into a matchup against Melbourne feeling more confident than I think we did back then.
Yes.
And despite the fact we had not beaten them since 2015, and it happened again.
And wasn't it great that Melbourne decided to have their old boys day New Zealand at Mount Smart Stadium at that game? That was bizarre. Yeah, absolutely bizarre.
We asked Robbo a couple of weeks after that when we saw him at the Titans game, and he said it was because of the Michael Moore. Yeah. Michael Moore tragically passed away back in 2000, I think, down at the Viaduct.
Yes.
But it was, I've never seen that happen before, where they had the away team had like basically a guard of honor coming out in the field, and you're like, oh, here we go. Like they need any more motivation or whatever to beat us. Yeah. Again, that game, it was just a carbon copy of so many matches that season. Dominated the first 10 minutes of the game, they had the ball maybe twice. I remember we were just that dominant, and when they got the ball, they made mistakes, and we got out to a 14-0 lead, but deep down, you're thinking that's not enough. And I think we were saying in the chat, like, we need to be up by way more than 14. They got that freakish try from Eli Katoa, of course, stealing the ball from Pompey after he defused that bomb, and then it just it was all one-way traffic after that. And
yeah, it was another loss. And then we went up and played the Titans at the Gold Coast. And again, when we lost to the Titans in round 6, the Titans were dead last and hadn't won a game. And when we came up against them in round, 16? They were dead last again on the ladder at that point. We had a great pre-game event organised by the Warriors at Robina there. Looking forward to a post-game event with the team. And it ended up being one of the worst games that I've ever had to sit through. A 66-6 loss on the Gold Coast. And, mate, yeah, I mean, that was hard. Seeing how despondent the boys were after the game when they came to the fan event, that was gut-wrenching as well. But, yeah, I remember sitting there with you. I don't know what happened in that game. You know what I mean? Like, every time they touched the ball, you know you're going bad when Isaac Liu makes a 30-metre break up the middle.
That's right. The plotter.
I
Chris Randall ran straight through like 3 tacklers and scored under the sticks, and all this stuff was going on. It's like, man, what has happened? These boys have not gotten off the plane.
No, it was one of the.
It's horrific.
Is that our worst loss in club history?
It equals the 70-10 loss, so 60-point margin. So 70-10 in Anzac Day 2022, where I famously said at least they won't get 70 with about 10 minutes to go when they were on about 40 something.
Yeah. Good times. Yeah, I remember that.
It's ironic that it was. Yeah, it's ironic that it was 66-6 because it's 666. It was the game from hell, wasn't it?
Oh fuck, wasn't it? What? Yeah, you can't really.
There's nothing to take away from that. There's absolutely zero to take away from it. We in fact refused to give our 3-2-1 because it's like there's no one deserving of points after that performance.
Yeah, I know. And then we backed that up the following week with a 32-16 win over the Broncos. And again, that was an effort that probably said, or a result similar to the Rabbitohs game, that probably said more about where the Broncos were at than where we were at. They were just going through
another game where we got out to a red hot start, let them back. That they were severely depleted. Like, this was after Origin. They didn't send any of their Origin players. We should have absolutely pantsed the Broncos this day. Like, we were dominating up the middle. Like, we had our not our full strength side, but we had like our full strength forward pack playing. And yeah, again, a game where we struggled to kind of put them away. We got the job done. But the best thing about this game was the bloody Heritage jersey. How good did that look?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yep, very, very much so. And then following that Broncos win, we had games either side of our second bye. We had the Bulldogs at Accor Stadium, followed by the Raiders at GIO Stadium. These are 2 games that I went to, and the theme of that is that we lost. But look, that Bulldogs game, that 13-12 Golden Point Bulldogs game, was probably one of our better performances in terms of heart and effort. There was 2 points in that game, a point in that game where we had Tamari Martin taken late that should have been a penalty that wasn't.
We got a dog shot.
Yes, it was. And that would have made it a 14-12 scoreline with a penalty goal almost right in front, and that would have sealed the game, which could have been a win, which could have changed, because at that point in time, we were still
like a knife's edge. Yeah.
For 8th spot. At that loss, that winning that game, the 2 points for the bye, and then winning the game in Canberra would have kind of got us back into that conversation for the top 8. But yeah, we had that loss, 13-12 loss to the Bulldogs. Again, another great fan event organised by the Warriors, pre-game event and a post-game event with the players. Had the bye, and then I ventured down to the nation's capital in Canberra to witness
a cold that night.
Mate, it was the coldest game I've ever been at. It was brutally cold, the weather in Canberra that night, and that was Danny's initiation into a game at Canberra. I'd never been to a game in the middle of winter at Canberra because we seem to get them earlier in the season.
Early and in the afternoon, so it's not as
in
cold.
the afternoon.
Yeah.
That was a 7:30 kickoff or something.
That was
like
an 8 o'clock game.
8 o'clock.
This
that's
was
right.
like the Channel 9 game, so it was like a
That's
really
right.
late kickoff. Yeah,
It was too. 8 o'clock on a Friday.
brutal.
Yeah.
As brutal as the performance.
2-point loss there. Yeah.
CHT, missing the kick from next to the posts.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, and then, mate, it was the Mike Doreen Cup, the 2024 edition of the Mike Doreen Cup. A 28-16. I was going to say 28-16 win over the Tigers. Since we had the inception of the Mike Doreen Cup, we haven't lost to the Tigers, have we?
No, not at all. Not
maybe
at
we
all.
should bring. Maybe we should bring a cup in for every team.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
What did you take away from that win against the Tigers? Because, like I said, we're still in
Not
the
a lot.
conversation then.
Not too much at all. I mean, it was against the Tigers again. I just remember that first half. Like we were just peppering their line, and we couldn't even score against the Tigers. And we got a bunch of late tries close to half time. I think we went in like 14-0, but then we just let them straight back into the game after half time. And then again, we did just enough to win. But it's against the Tigers. You know, like it's the only thing at the time that was keeping you interested was, well, we got the Eels next week, and the Eels are going just as badly.
Yep. And then as you said, we come up against the Eels, who I think when we played the Eels, it was the third time in the season that we've been playing the team that was actually sitting in last spot when we played them, and a third time in the season that last place actually beat us. 30-20, lost to the Eels. At that point, you know, I mean, when you talk about the Eels, they're the time you look at their team on paper, and they shouldn't have been where they were on the ladder anyway. And they came out and played a better brand of footy, basically, because I think around that time they played the Panthers and got close to beating them as well.
They played Melbourne. They played all right against Melbourne. The week after they played the Panthers, so they actually were in like a little bit of form. But I mean, like our season was on the line, and we just came out as flat as a tack. We just let the Eels just came out and had a hot start. Actually, sorry, we got field position but couldn't score. That's right. We dominated early, couldn't score. Their first trip up the other end, they put on points, and they went bang, 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 and it was virtually over at halftime. You called it early. Dejan Arzi had the game of his career, as we knew he would. And we made him look like Brad Fittler again.
Yes, we did.
Yes, not to disrespect Dejan at all, but we were just completely off the pace. We got a bunch of late tries at the end to make the scores closer, but in actual fact, it was 30-4 with about 5 minutes to go. So blown off the park by the second last team.
Dolphins at Suncorp Stadium. This was a game you went to, wasn't it?
I was there with the whole family, actually. Yeah, this was the first time that I brought. Cleo's been to many games with me, but it was Domi's second game. Her previous game was a 44-0 loss to the Titans, so she'd never seen the Warriors score any points live. And it was Cody's first game as well. So, we turned up. We went to the pre-match function. Let me tell you, it was a dead set ghost town up at the Lord Alfred Hotel. It's chalk and cheese when you compare it to Magic Round. But nevertheless, we went to the game, and I think because we were playing the Dolphins had been on a bit of a losing streak, and they were about to drop out of the 8. I think they were in and out of the 8 and hovering around there. And you're like, we're in with a chance because they haven't been playing consistent footy. Again, they came out and got an early lead. We made a game of it. We scored some tries, albeit most of the tries we scored that day were quite scrappy. Quite a few tries from kicks. We just weren't fluent in attack at all once again. But I think it said more about the Dolphins again than what it said about the Warriors. And we got it back to 30-all. There was that penalty try awarded to Mitch Barnett, 30-all, and we're like, we're on here. But then once again, we just could not ice the field goal. We were in prime position to knock over the one-pointer, and CHT had a couple of shots that went wide. And then, of course, went into Golden Point. And who should step up and kick it like a 42-metre field goal or something than Sean O'Sullivan, who didn't show any resemblance of a kicking game in that season when he played for us. So
yeah, exactly.
there you go. Again, probably said more about the Dolphins that they scrapped away and got that win over us. But yeah, I mean, it was good to see some points live. Good to see Dommy finally got to see the Warriors score some tries live. Yeah.
Then we had the return of Sean Johnson, pretty much. A game at 4 points, 24-10. Loss to the Sea Eagles. And then the Sean Johnson's last home game for the Warriors. A 34-18 loss to the Bulldogs. A game where the Warriors came out again under all the emotion. And they do things really well at the Warriors. That pre-game stuff that they had going on, and bringing those Adam Fanua-Blake, Jazz Tavanga, and then Sean Johnson out is
really nice touch. Yeah,
it was a beautiful touch. And then the Warriors with a great opening 20 minutes. The Bulldogs really just had to weather the storm of that emotion, and the way they were playing, they were kind of at that point where they would find points, and they did. Probably the two things that came out of this game were the two high shots. The one on Roger, which ended Roger's season. Shit refereeing. We don't blame refs for results, and I'm not saying that the result would have been different had the ref awarded the penalties at that time. But the standard of refereeing in that game against the Dogs, we had that high shot on Roger. Roger goes off, fails his HIA, can't play the final game of the season. And then Mitch Barnett copped a high shot as well, which I thought was probably worse than
drew blood.
Yeah. And again, he had to stay down on one knee, and he kind of looked at the ref as if to say, "What the fuck are you doing?"
Yeah, as we stand there and go, "What's going on, champion?"
Disappointing end to the season at home. I think we only had 5 wins at home all season.
Yeah, so Nick said 3. I think that we only had 4 wins at Mount Smart, and then we had the Magic Round win, which counted as a home game. And was it only 3? Because one of the games we won, it was at Christchurch as well. That was a home game for us too.
Correct.
So so 3 out of 10 at Mount Smart. Jeez,
I know, brutal. Which brings us into the final game of the season, and this game is kind of like golf. It's like you can play 17 shit holes at golf, and you have that one great hole to finish off the round, and it brings you back the next time. And that was this game against the Sharks at Shark Park, the final game of the season for the Warriors, because we got the bye in the final round. So our season ended a week earlier than everybody else's. 30 to 28. 30 to 28. Great win by the Warriors. Great way to finish off the season. That final passage of play, Sean Johnson was like, his final 40 minutes was just brilliant. He had that try assist in the first half where he kind of looked wide,
show and go
through the line, back onto Metcalf
Vintage.
On the inside.
2014 SJ, that was, for sure.
It was. And then for him to finish his career, his final play of his career was that wrap around from left side to right side, and then the cutout ball to Dallin to score Dallin's 101st try of his career in that corner. It was, I don't know, mate, it was just poetry. Great way for Johnson to finish his career. Apart from winning a premiership, that's kind of how you want to go out, isn't it?
Yeah, there's no other better way out, other than doing that in a final minute of a grand final. It was fantastic. Great way for him to end his career, especially against the other team that he spent a bit of time at as well. It was just kind of meant to be. We said that weeks after the final, we're like, probably even a few weeks before he announced his retirement, like, wouldn't be surprised if he decides to pull up
hang
stumps.
Up the boots.
Against the Sharks. Look, it was. You're right. You came away from that just feeling really proud and like really optimistic, and it almost made you forget about the previous 25 weeks of mediocrity that followed in the season. And it was just so good to see Paul Gallen so salty on the Channel 9 telecast as well. Afterwards, that made it all worthwhile as well. They asked him about what he thought about the game, and he just was whinging that the Sharks couldn't get the job done. So well, that's because you're the Sharks.
Yeah, he's an idiot. Mate. I saw Nick McKercher in the chat there. He gave our season a 3 out of 10 at best. He asked how would we rate the season? I'd say that's a pretty fair call.
3, yeah. 4. I don't know. If you'd say that we slipped into the 8, you'd probably say it was a 5 or 6 out of 10. So I think 3 or 4 out of 10 is fair.
Yeah. Jacko's also said, I do wonder if Webster has a halftime blast in him. It's kind of interesting, isn't it? Because you hear Webby in his post-match press conferences, and he's always level-headed. He doesn't blame referees. He always talks about, moments in the game that we should have owned and we didn't, and that. I don't know. Is he the kind of coach that you think has a fiery spray in him? Because I don't know. I think at some stages this year we really needed one.
Yeah. I think we did need a bit of a boot up the bum, but I don't know. From what we've seen of him, you can't imagine him getting up the boys. And as you said, he's very measured and level-headed in the press conference. We need to see some footage like that time with Steve Kearney. Remember when he kicked the towel?
Yes.
I don't know. It's hard to say, because obviously we're not privy to any of that. Like, he doesn't seem to show a whole lot of emotion at all. So whether or not, he probably didn't have to do any last year.
No.
So probably hasn't had any practice. So
no.
Yeah.
I think
we'll have to ask Jazz. We'll have to ask Jazz in a few weeks.
We will. I think with 2023 was kind of like a perfect storm. We just had so many players playing career best seasons all at the same time. And coming into this season, we kind of expected that was going to happen again, and it just didn't. Can I ask you, mate, do you have a personal highlight of the season? Because I know my personal low light will be sitting through that 66-6 loss at the Gold Coast, and I'm pretty sure yours will be pretty similar.
Yeah.
Do you have a personal highlight? I think I know what you're going to say.
A personal highlight?
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's got to be an NZ at the Dolphins game.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Me too. That for me was a personal highlight.
It was that day. Like, to be honest with you, the win was basically just an add-on because of how good the day had been. It was wonderful just being there, being at a home game, because we don't get to go to many. Obviously, we're over here in Australia, and that's the first time Azru and Hammer that we've done. Was our first overseas trip together, and it was just an absolute blast. We got treated really well by the club, by Cam George, Glenn Harris. So a massive thanks to those guys as always.
Yeah.
Brad Inger for tagging along during the day. That was great to meet him in person, because again, we a lot of people we haven't actually met in person.
No.
So that was fantastic. And next cab off the rank is the week before at Magic Round. That was just absolutely fantastic day to be a part of. Yeah. Yourself?
For me, mate, definitely the Dolphins game, the whole New Zealand experience. That'll live with me forever. For all the reasons that you said. Awesome to be able to experience that. And again, probably the other highlights for me would be the fan events that we attended in the Gold Coast and at Sydney. Being able to do the meet and greet with the players and share that experience with so many Aussie-based fans is like that. Mate, I'll ask you a couple of questions. The Warriors had their awards night last week, I think it was. Mitch Barnett, Simon Mannering medalist. Fair?
Very, very much so. I think he was extremely well deserving of it. Close behind him would have been Adam Fanua-Blake. Those two were absolutely outstanding. You can't fault any of our forwards this year. Forward pack has did a great job. They're the ones that got us in the position. I think the blame can lie elsewhere. in the side. But yeah, Mitch Barnett had a career best season, as we said before. Said in previous episodes, he really rose to the occasion as a leader as well, and to the point where we missed him when he wasn't in the team, when he was away on Origin duty. And yeah, like he was the first Warriors player to debut for New South Wales while playing at the club.
At the Warriors,
which was I think a really big achievement, because they say at the Warriors you're out of sight, out of mind, out of sight, out of mind. And that wasn't the case. And yeah, he got on the field in Game 3, and he had a fantastic match for the Blues.
He absolutely did.
For me as a Queensland fan,
took on the mantle of captain in the back end of the season with the injury to Tohu keeping him out the back end of the season. So yeah, absolutely fantastic season from Mitch Barnett. I did pick him to win the Simon Mannering medalist last year, so it was a year late on that. Adam Fanua-Blake, he got the Warriors Players Player, which, again, as you said, he was outstanding for us as well. I think when he signed on with the Sharks at the beginning of the season, we kind of thought he might just dial this season in, but he didn't. He was one of our best performers. I did get to speak to him at the Sydney fan event, and he was saying how he's loved his time at the club. And he would have loved to have stayed, but family first type mentality. Yeah, so that was great for him. And Adam Fanua-Blake actually got our Ruin Hammer Dean Bell medalist this year as well.
It was close. They were both so good. They were both such consistent performers all season.
Yeah. I was disappointed he didn't turn up to the Gold Coast on the weekend so we could present him with his medal in person. But and I'm sure he really gives a shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Jacob Labin got our Rookie of the Year, which is probably due to the fact that he probably played more games.
Played the most amount of games.
Than the others, because I really thought, based on effort, a guy like Sifakula, who was probably still, would you say Sifakula and Leatua were still eligible as Rookies of the Year this year? Because both those guys were outstanding with their time. Leka Halasima as well made his debut this season. He was outstanding for us as well. But and Zion Mayu had that one game where we kind of wondered why he didn't get more game time this year. But yeah, congratulations to Jacob. And then Luke Metcalf got the Clubman of the Year. I don't know what that award is. When they give
Good bloke award, isn't it?
Is that what it is?
You're a likable fella, isn't it?
Okay.
I don't know. If anyone knows, put it in the chat.
Yeah.
Has anyone been a Clubman of the Year before?
No, never. Outside of the awards, and as I said, we gave Adam Fanua-Blake. He won our Ruin Hammer Player of the Year,
Dean
57. Bell, Dean Bell, 57 season points over Mitch Barnett, 50. Just a couple of things, just wrapping it up. A couple of guys leaving the club. As we spoke about Fanua-Blake moving on to the Sharks. Mate, Jazz Tavanga, been what people would epitomise as a true warrior. A battler, probably not the most gifted skill-wise, but really has worked hard to become a regular fixture in our 17 over the past 8 seasons. Sad to see him moving on. As everyone knows, he's one of my favourites. We have a great relationship with Jazz, and we are looking to get him on in the next couple of weeks just to have a bit of a chat to him about his time at the Warriors. We have had him on before. But yeah, what's your thoughts on Jazz, mate?
Yeah, really sad to see him go. One of the longest serving Warriors in the current squad. I still remember the day he made his debut in 2016. It's like at a hooker. He's this guy, but yeah, he was always, what do they call him? The junkyard dog.
Dog.
I think he really embraced that role, didn't he? He became like a bench specialist. Won the Interchange Player of the Year at the 2018 Dally M's.
Yep.
He did that role really well. He came on and always brought so much energy and enthusiasm. And he wasn't the biggest. He's not the biggest bloke going around for a middle forward, but he played with so much heart and so much courage every time. And he's going to be sorely missed. Like it's always, it's always hard to say goodbye to these guys that have been, that feel like part of the furniture. And one of those guys where you watch him play, and was it Manly next year? The Manly jersey just won't look the same.
That one kind of surprised me because he was one of those guys who I thought, and he spoke about it, like it'd be hard to play against the Warriors. I thought he'd go to the Super League for a number of reasons.
Told us.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm glad that he's going to be around in the NRL. Get to see his ugly mug week in, week out, albeit in a Manly jersey.
They look even uglier in that thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely will. And Sean Johnson, mate. Sean Johnson announced his retirement after, 14 seasons in the NRL. He was a highlight player in his first stint at the Warriors, went away to Cronulla for a couple of seasons and came back home. I don't know. The last 2 seasons, we've seen a changed Sean Johnson. Missed out on the Dally M by 1 point last year, and that will probably be a big regret as the years go on when he thinks back over that. Probably should have just played that last game against the Dolphins. Last year, he probably would have wrapped it up. But been a great stalwart of the club, and we wish him well in his retirement. Your thoughts on Sean, mate?
Yeah, look, prior to 2018, he was like one of my favourite Warriors of all time. Like he just had that moment of brilliance in him. Like in his early days, he had the sidestep, he had the pace, he had, he was the highlight reel player. I'll never ever, as long as I live, ever forget the 2011 prelim final. That move that he put on Cooper Cronk, that was just absolute poetry in motion to set up that try for Louis Brown. He really announced himself on the stage. He had a few tough years there. There was always sort of questions about his consistency. Left the club. Maybe he probably had to leave the club to come back, and then realised how much we realised how much we all missed him, and how much he missed being at the club. And you could see how much it meant to him when he did come back and put the jersey back on again. Had a tough year in 22, but 23, his greatest year in first grade football. Was absolutely fantastic. Had his fingerprints on everything. He just dominated the majority of the season. So many great memories of SJ and the jersey. I think, you think back to that final last year against the Knights where he did that sort of lap of honour afterwards, and that was kind of one of the great moments in Warriors history, just sort of soaking in that kind of environment. This year wasn't the season that we'd hoped for. He seems to have been injured for most of the year, and I'm just so stoked that he was able to finish on such a positive note, and kind of finish the way that he started. He started by setting up that try in his first season against Louis Brown. Then he finishes by putting over Dallin for the match winner. So I think that's completely sort of circumspect career gone full circle.
Absolutely.
But I'm sure we'll be seeing him around. He'll be involved in the club in some capacity, and he's got his podcast, so he'll still be around. And he's got the head and he's got the personality for media, so I'm sure we'll be seeing him on Sky Sports and what have you.
He does, mate. Looking ahead to next year, we're not going to get into who we think he's going to play in what position or anything like that. But with the departure of a couple of players, signing news, we've signed Aaron Clark from the Titans on a 3-year deal. I could only think that they got him for less money than what Jazz was asking for, because it's kind of, you know what I mean? Like they're very similar players. But he's a one-game Warrior in the past. He came through our systems. He's coming home. His mum, I didn't realise, was on the Gold Coast as well, coaching netball. I think she's coming home to do coach netball as well. So, and he's got a young family, so he's bringing his family home. So we've got Aaron coming. We've also obviously got James Fisher-Harris coming next year to boost our forward stocks. And a bit of signing news we've been talking about with the Warriors coming back in the NRLW next year. Warrior number 2, RP Nichols, became our first signing for season 2025. And on the back of that, we've signed Maya Hill Moana, Layshawn Albert-Jones, Harada Butler, and I think we've got about 8 signings now on the books, all players that are currently playing in the NRLW. So that's going to be a great mix of some experience in that squad, mixed in with obviously some of the girls that are in New Zealand playing in the local competitions there that are going to get a chance. So, yeah, our coach, Rod Griffith, obviously starting to get his squad together for next season, which is looking good. Yeah, mate, I don't know. Should we move on and anything else you want to say about the Warriors season?
No, I think we said it all. Yeah, let's just control alt delete, hey?
Yeah, we've done that after many seasons, haven't we?
How many times have we said that? Yep.
Let's have a look at the first week of NRL finals footy. You got the results from last weekend, mate?
Yep, I do. So first round of finals.
Sorry, before we go into that, there was a question.
Is that the one about who? Yep.
Yeah, I asked the standoff fellas last night, which Warrior of 2002, 2003 in their prime would you love to slot into our current squad? Brad Ingers said he reckons we can guess who he's saying. You want to have a stab in the dark at who Brad's thinking?
Guess who he said?
Yeah.
Oh, I reckon he said Ali Lauatiti.
Yeah, I reckon he would have said Ali. Was his favourite player wasn't playing in
Richard Villasanti?
Yeah. Do you have a 02-03 player that you would slot into our squad in their prime?
For 2024 season?
Yeah.
Mate, Stacey.
Yeah. I would say
Paliacina. Oh, we should have got that.
Yeah, I was thinking Feka. That's what I was thinking. Feka Paliacina. Yeah, for me, it'd be Stacey at halfback and push Sean into 5'8", or
mate, there's so many actually.
One thing that we lack is pure out and out speed and X factor. So maybe Clinton Torpy.
Yeah, I was going to say Torpy, a real strike centre. We haven't had a strike centre since his departure. And then I was going to say, like, you get him. Can we get Francis Melly in there as well? Bit of X factor on the wing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. We start soon. We'll have the whole team. Let's just replace them. Get all those guys in there. Real golden era for the club, wasn't it? 02, 03 always brings a smile to the face.
Sorry, Tooks, if you're sitting there waiting for your name to be read out, mate.
Tooks is the what's the award?
He's a fan favourite. He's a fan favourite.
But what's that award we were just talking about?
Oh, the Clubman of the
Year. Yeah, Tooks is the Clubman of the Year for 02, 03.
Yeah.
No, we love you, Tooks. So you'd be in there somewhere.
Jacko's asked, any chance Hale will come back to captain the women's side? Mate, I would love to see that. I know she's signed to the Titans to the end of 2025. But everyone knows, her dad's at the Warriors. Her family lives in New Zealand. Her partner is playing at the Leeds Rhinos. She only ever moved to the Gold Coast to be with him, and then he got released by the Titans, and he's now playing Leeds. She spends the first half of the season playing for the Leeds Rhinos women's team in that English women's rugby league comp over there, and then comes back. Yeah, I would love to see her come back. We've had this discussion in the past about any of our current New Zealand women coming home. I got a funny feeling. I reckon Mackenzie Wiki might sign back with the Warriors, come back home. Rubens, obviously she's wearing that iconic number 4 jersey that her dad wore at the Raiders, but her whole family's over in New Zealand still. So she may come back. I don't think Madison Bartlett will come back to the Warriors.
Not unless we sign.
And not unless we sign Sebastian Chris. But yeah, and I don't think any of those Aussie girls that played for the Warriors in that 2020 season, because of, we could only get 5 girls over there. But maybe Annette Nuasala could come home as well. There is a couple of girls that come over to Australia just to play in the NRLW. There is a bit of talk that some of the rugby sevens girls may make the jump. It was interesting to hear with Stacey Walker at the Broncos. She's still under contract with the sevens rugby for another 2 seasons. So this was kind of just a one-off. I thought maybe she, because her family's based in New Zealand, she might be a signing for the Warriors. I don't know what's going on there, but Michaela Blyde, Sarah Hironey, they've all come out and said that they would love to represent the Warriors in the NRLW. So I don't know whether that happens. There's talk that Portia Woodman, who's retired from rugby sevens, would be someone that we could look at as well. So yeah, I really hope that they start building this squad. It's great to see, as I said, that we're getting some of the girls coming home and with a little bit of experience, bring that experience back with them. But yeah, Georgia Hale's tack account is off the charts. Absolutely. Like even in that Titans team that's getting had a fall, like they were going really well at the beginning of their NRLW season, but they've kind of fallen off now. She's still punching out like 40 to 50 tackles a game. She's an absolute weapon. So yeah, I'd really love to see Georgia come back. Yeah, maybe we can get her on the show in a couple of weeks and ask her that question too, Rob.
Yeah, no pressure.
No pressure whatsoever. Yeah, okay. Let's get into the
Finals
NRL results. Finals results from last week, right? Yep. Take us through them.
Friday night, we kicked off the finals campaign. Panthers 30 over the Roosters 10. A result that we pretty much expected with all the injuries to the Roosters. Panthers kept doing what they keep on keeping on. Your thoughts on that one? Any comments?
Oh, mate, Nathan Cleary's an absolute freak, isn't he?
Is.
Yeah. I said a couple of weeks ago that Melbourne had the title wrapped up and no one could beat them, but the Panthers come out and put on a performance like that. And now you're kind of thinking, yeah, okay, it's going to be a Penrith-Melbourne grand final. So, yeah, great result from the Panthers, mate.
Yeah, speaking of Melbourne, the Saturday afternoon game was down in Melbourne, and the Storm 37, way too good for the Sharks 10. The Sharks had probably one of the worst ever starts to a finals game. I think they made a mistake from the kickoff, and yeah, that was curtains. That was curtains for them. Some serious questions being asked about Nico Hines at the moment, isn't there? A lot of pressure on him.
Mate, I wouldn't be playing him. Personally, if I was Fitzgibbon, I'd put him on the bench and I'd play Atkinson and Trindle. They've got nothing to lose. They've been great all season in Nico's absence. Yeah, I don't know. Nico Hines. I don't know. He's just not a big game player, is he? He failed at Origin. He's failed at Origin.
7 straight finals losses for the Sharks as well.
Yeah, and it'll be 8 after this week as well. But yeah, Melbourne, yeah, was never really in any doubt, was it?
No, they were way too strong. Always had it in control. Me and Sean were watching this game, and I said at halftime, I reckon this will be 38-10, and it ends up 37-10. So, yeah, pretty much what we all expected there. The interesting game was the following one up there in Townsville. Cowboys 28 over the Knights 16. I don't think this final scoreline really shows how close this game was. The Knights, the scores were locked at 16-all with about 10 to go. Ponga made a clean break, and Dane Gagai put it down the line wide open, and that could have been a very different result. And then the Cowboys got a couple of tries in the last 7 minutes to get the job done. Wasn't convincing. The Knights showed a lot of heart. The team that a lot of people probably thought didn't really deserve to be there. They scraped their way into the top 8, but they gave a pretty good account of themselves. What's your take on the Cowboys? It's been an inconsistent year for them, but leading up to this game, they really seem to have found some form. Bit patchy in this one, though.
Of the other teams that aren't Penrith and Melbourne that are left in the top 8 race or the top 6 now, I think they're the smoky. I think they're probably because they do have the speed out wide. They've got a decent pack. I think they're the team that can probably have a better chance. I can't see the Sharks beating Melbourne or Penrith. I can't see Manly beating Melbourne or Penrith. And I can't see the Roosters. Roosters haven't beaten Melbourne as much as they've been dominant over the last couple of years. They haven't beaten Melbourne or Penrith in their last 16 or 17 outings against either of those clubs. So, but I don't know. Something about the Cowboys, they're a little bit of a smoky. But
they got the team to do it. But their consistency is their problem, and their defence as well.
Yeah. I think it's just going to come down to Melbourne. And that's the other thing too, is everyone's talking about, Cowboys. Mate, that was one pass away from them losing that game and Newcastle going through. If Dane Gagai catches that ball, I think Newcastle go on and win that game. So
yeah, without a doubt. Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, that was a good win by the Cowboys, though. Keeps them in there. And then what was the final game? Oh, Manly and the Bulldogs.
Yeah, Bulldogs versus Manly. All the talk over Luke Brooks playing his first ever finals game. Even the Tigers were happy for him. Did you see that? Wasn't that the most bizarre thing you've ever seen on social media? I don't know whose idea that was, but yeah, Tigers go, we just want to give Luke Brooks a bit of a pat on the back for playing his first finals game. Really weird stuff.
What was it? 200 and something games, wasn't it? Longest drought since came in whatever year he came in. He hasn't played finals footy. Mate, I thought he was great in his first finals footy outing. Let's
good
be
game
honest,
of footy. Really good game of footy.
Mate, great game of footy. Can I say that I'm very happy? As much as I'm not a Manly fan, I'm very happy Manly got up because I don't think I could handle the Bulldogs going.
Yeah, I was the same.
Nothing against that club, but their fans are just. I don't know. I can't handle their fans.
You didn't have to do a run around Belmore or something, did you? The morning after the game?
No, I didn't. Thank God. They've been pretty quiet this week, the Bulldogs fans, I must say. I don't know. Yeah, I think they
played 80 more minutes than we did this season. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. They played 80 more minutes for all that hype and surrounding them this year. They played an extra 80 minutes. Whoop-de-doo. And unfortunately for the Bulldogs, I think that they've had a season that they really should embrace and celebrate because 2015 was their last time that they played finals footy or something like that. And their whole finals footy heading into their first finals game in 8 seasons, the headlines was about that idiot Josh Addo-Carr and his drug scandal. So I do feel sorry for the Dogs in that respect. I think that's taken a little bit of the shine off their season. But in saying that, I'm glad that they're not in week 2 of the finals.
Yeah, same.
Before we look at this week's finals, I think the round 8 of the NRLW, which is the second last round of the NRLW, was played out on the weekend. The Tigers got their first win of the season. They had a 16-14 win over the Dragons. So they ended a 7-game losing streak. The Broncos, 20-16 winners over the Sharks. The Knights counted for the Titans 46-10. The Titans are real fall from grace. So I think after 4 rounds, they're leading the comp. Now they can't make the finals. They're definitely out of finals contention. The Roosters 24-12 winners over the Cowboys. Isabel Kelly breaking the NRLW all-time run meters for one game. 355 run meters in that game against the Cowboys. And the Eels with an 18-16 win over the Raiders, which keeps their slim finals chances alive at this point in time with 1 round to go. Roosters, Broncos and Sharks are all on 12 points and have secured themselves a spot in the final. Interestingly, the Knights and the Eels both on 10. Knights win with a much superior for and against. They play finals footy and are looking for a three-peat themselves. If the Knights have to lose this week and the Eels win, then the Eels will go into the final series. So Going to be some interesting results this weekend. NRL finals week 2, mate. Who have we got?
Week 2. Yeah, so Friday night, 20th of September, we have the Sharks playing the Cowboys. And this is being played at Allianz Stadium. There was a bit of controversy about where this game should be played. So PointsBet Stadium, the Sharks' home ground, only holds about, is it 10,000?
I think it's initially, like, it's supposed to be a 22,000 seat capacity stadium, but with all the works that are going on there,
and everything,
I think it only holds 13,000 people at the moment. It's got less capacity than KO Stadium did when the Warriors played out of there in Redcliffe in 2022.
22.
So, so they've moved that game, obviously. Where is it? Allianz?
It's at Allianz, so Sydney Football Stadium. So I think once you get to week 2 and 3, it's home region. So the NRL, it's in their best interest to move it to a stadium where they can get more people to go along, obviously. So this is an interesting clash. They're coming up against the Cowboys, who are coming off that win against the Knights, as we just mentioned. Sharks 7 straight finals losses. So Craig Fitzgibbon is yet to win a finals game as coach of the Sharks.
Shout out. Nick. I was going to say shout out to the Cowboys who failed to get flights for their players as well and had to send an SOS to the NRL for a private jet.
all their fans got there, but they took up all the bloody flights. So I was thinking they'd have to get one of those rickety old buses and do a road trip down there.
Yeah,
everyone hanging onto the sides of like you see in India, those buses and everything like that.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. They almost didn't make it, mate. I think there's something unpredictable about the Cowboys. I think they're going to have too much points in them. I think if they get out to a hot start, the Sharks won't be able to reel them in. I'm picking 8 straight finals losses for the Sharks. I think the Cowboys will get through to the prelim.
Yeah, I think so too. I think the Sharks are going to I think the Sharks are going to be realising that they're just missing that dominant middle forward that can lay a platform for them. I don't rate their middle forwards. I rate their edge forwards. I just don't rate their middle forwards. And again,
they're getting one next year.
They're getting one of the best ones next year. And I think, again, as we said earlier, I think Nico Hines is the spotlight's really going to be on him. Because if he doesn't perform in this game, then that's going to be a lot of questions that Craig Fitzgibbon is going to have to answer over the offseason, what they do with Nico Hines.
Yeah.
Because I don't think he's a game-hardened, a game-winning halfback. I don't think he can take the team on his back and get them through this. And I'm like you, mate. I think we're going to have a win for the Cowboys here, and the Sharks will bow out in straight sets.
Again, yeah. So moving on to Saturday, this game is also being played at Allianz Stadium. We have the Roosters up against the Sea Eagles. It's really hard to get a read on the Roosters at the moment. They've got all those injuries. They went to Penrith, which is a tough place to play, and got comprehensively beaten. The Sea Eagles, coming off a gutsy come-from-behind win over the Bulldogs. I feel that this will be a very close game, but I'm actually going to pick the Sea Eagles to win this one. Seabold to get heavily entrenched into the finals. And I think, a really close game. I think the Sea Eagles will get up. I think the Roosters are struggling with their halves. Sandon Smith had a bit of a nightmare last week. Lacking a bit of experience there. So, and mate, the Sea Eagles have got DCE, who's got over 300 games of experience and is a bit of a Benjamin Button aging backwards. So, I expect it to be a close one, but Sea Eagles 1-12. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I think the Sea Eagles will get them. I think once the Roosters lost Sam Walker, that was kind of the end of their premiership aspirations. And Sandon Smith struggling a little bit. I think this will be the last time we see Joey Manu in the NRL as well. This will be his final game and moving on to rugby. I think Cherry Evans will just be too good. He'll get that Manly side home. Probably the biggest question mark over Manly this week is Tom Toroyevich. I know he He looked like he picked up an injury in last week's game, and I know they'll just needle him up and get him out there. But
for sure.
But yeah, I think I'm with you, mate. I think it'll be a Seagull. I don't think there'll be a lot of points in this one, but I think the Seagulls will get home.
Yeah. So there we have it. That's week 2 of the finals. So
is that it? Oh, it's only 2 games, isn't it?
Yeah, because it's just I think 12 months ago we were playing this week.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah.
Thanks. Great. NRLW round 9. This is the final round of the NRLW. Before they head off into their 1 week of semis and then the grand final. So we've got the Sharks up against the Tigers at PointsBet Stadium. I think that's going to be an easy Sharks victory. Sharks have been dominant team all season. That's on tonight, mate. That's 7:45 tonight. And then on Saturday, we've got the 9th place Dragons playing the 2nd place Broncos at Queensland Country Bank Stadium in a double header up there in North Queensland. I'm going to say the Broncos get that one in a canter. Yeah,
the Donkeys will be too good.
This is the telling one, though. The Cowboys up against the Knights. The Cowboys aren't having that bad a season. They're just outside the 8. The 4. They can't make the top 4, but they can certainly knock the Knights out of the top 4. Knights playing for a finals berth and another opportunity to go on a three-peat. They're the reigning 2-time premiers. I'm going to pick the Knights in a close one, mate.
Yeah, I think the Knights will get there. They still got plenty to play for.
Yep. The 8th place Raiders up against the 7th place Titans. That game is at CommBank Stadium in a double header on Sunday. Mate, I'm going to pick the Titans. I don't know why. Karina Brown playing her final game of her career. She's announced her retirement. Warrior 34. Yep. Warrior 34. Yep. So she's been named on the wing, but they've given her jersey number 1 to wear this week because she is Gold Coast Titan number 1 in their player numbers.
Nice touch.
Lovely touch. Good luck to Goosey. Hope she has a great game.
Yeah.
Hope the Titans get the win for her. And the final game in that double header on Sunday.
I'll go Raiders.
Raiders?
Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
sorry,
Goose.
The final game is the 5th place Eels up against the 1st place Roosters. Eels really need to win. They'll know if they can make the 8, depending on that Newcastle game. I think the Roosters will be way too good.
Yeah, I agree. Roosters will be too strong.
All right. And that wraps it up for tonight, mate. I've got my notes on my screen, but my computer's frozen, so I can't actually see anything. So our end of show montage that we go through, if you've got that, can you rattle it off?
Well, look, a special thanks to all you guys who have watched tonight through Facebook and YouTube. We greatly appreciate that. A special shout out as well to our fantastic Patreon supporters, especially you gold Patreons out there. Your generous support goes a long way to helping us do what we do. And so you guys on Patreon, you gold Patreons, check on Patreon, check your messages. We've got a new Sean Johnson shirt that we've released to you guys first, and we will be putting that up on our Redbubble store soon. So if you guys do want to support us in what we do, jump onto Patreon. The link is on the screen right now. You can join our gold, silver, or bronze support levels. The bronze starts at about $3 a month, and then if you're interested in merchandise, you can become a gold Patreon. That also comes with some of our merch from our Redbubble store. And speaking of which, jump on the Redbubble store. They're having specials all the time. We're putting up new designs all the time. We've got a Farewell Sean Johnson shirt that is going to be on there very soon. It's got all his stats from his Warriors career on there. And I've sort of given it a bit of a start, sunrise and sunset to his career theme on that as well. So check that out in the coming days. But thank you to all you guys who have bought merchandise and to all you guys who support us on Patreon. We greatly appreciate it.
Absolutely, we do. Just want to give a special shout out to the great Juan. our good mate.
Yes.
Juan Carlos Contreras, who had a birthday yesterday. So happy birthday, Juan. Hoping you're doing well, and hope to catch up with you soon, mate.
Yeah. Happy birthday, mate. Many happy returns. Hope you're doing well, health-wise and everything as well. And yeah, it'd be great to catch up.
Absolutely. That wraps it up for tonight's show. Thank you very much, everyone who's tuned in to watch. Next week, I think we're looking at revisiting our Warriors top 17. We did when we first started the Ruin Hammer journey, we did our Warriors best ever 17. That was 5 years ago. And since then, there's probably been a couple of guys that have worked their way into our top 17. So maybe next week, what we'll do is we'll bust out our original top 17, and then we'll update that, because that's always going to be something that changes over time. So we're going to do our top 17. We're happy if you guys jump in and
put yours up there.
Yeah, in the comments as we do.
Honourable mentions as well. We'll be doing our 17 and then honourable mentions. Maybe that would have made an extended squad if we had one.
Absolutely.
So,
so we're going to do that. Yeah, bit of fun. So we got that next week. And then we also have, in a couple of weeks, we're going to have Brad and Richie from the Standoff on to revisit our 24 predictions for 2024 to see just how delusional we were at the beginning of the season in our tips for our predictions for this season, which
always look forward to that. Always look forward to that,
mate. Absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, that's it for tonight's show. Thank you everyone for joining us, and we will catch you guys next week.
Thanks, guys. Take care, everyone.